At the Office, Cleveland's home for sports talk that never clocks out. From the latest headlines to heated debates, we're diving into everything sports. It's your hosts, Noah, John, and Eric.
Cleveland! Welcome into the Office, the show where we talk all things sports. I'm your host, Noah, joined by my sole singular co-host, John Sharp. John, how you doing, buddy? Real quick.
I'm doing well, man. This is last day of work and the last hump before the Christmas vacation, so nobody I'd rather spend it with, brother.
Amen, man. You can join us here too at the Office. Send us a comment on YouTube, Facebook, or X, or text the show 216-260-3433. That is 216-260-3433. For any of our longtime viewers, that is a different phone number from the one that we have been using. And maybe that's a hint at something big to come in the new year, but we'll just leave it as a hint for right now because we have to get in. We have to get feisty because, damn it, the Dolans are cheap, man. John, how are you feeling? I was at my girlfriend's Christmas party on Saturday. I was feeling all good. I was having a couple adult beverages, a couple, mixed drinks, a couple beers, what have you. I look down at my phone and I get some terrible, god-awful, no good news. We're trading Josh Naylor to the Diamondbacks on top of what we've already kind of talked about in the past with the Andrés Giménez trade, canceling Guards Fest. This feels like the cheapest this team has ever been. How are you feeling about it, man?
Bad, too. I was glad you had alcohol when you heard the news because that's the only way to kind of make this feel a little bit better in the moment. It's par for the course, and I think I told you guys this on a previous podcast. I feel like the idiot. It's like Charlie Brown in the football. I keep getting my hopes up. I keep waiting my 3 years. I keep getting a new crop of players, and then the owners cut my legs out from under me and absolutely gut the franchise. But this, even for them, feels different because nothing that they're doing needed to happen now. All of these guys that they're getting rid of could have played next year. So maybe at the trade deadline next year, you make a move. Maybe you can net some positivity on the active roster to make another run at it. This all just seemed, even for the Guardians, bad because it was so premature. We could have played another season with this roster without having to pay really anybody all that much more. And they opted to go this route, even though they didn't have to.
Yeah, to play devil's advocate for a second, I get some of this thought process. I'm not saying in terms of, the Dolans are being cheap because we could have kept all of these players plus added into this. But, the Guardians did see their starting pitcher well, if you will, in terms of the prospects coming up, dry up after they called up both Gavin Williams and Tanner Bybee this past season. I see what they're doing here in theory is moving off of some of these players that could be a problem. I love Josh Naylor. I will never talk shit on Josh Naylor. Shout out, Grandma, if you're listening. I know that was your boy. Unfortunately, He is no longer allowed to be your boy. With that being said, though, there was a rumor about his weight being a problem, and they told him to get it under control. And yes, we all know Josh was gaining some weight. It has been a talking point for better or for worse, if you care or you do not, in terms of this team, this fan base, this clubhouse. I get what they're doing. They're trying to get rid of some of these problem players and bolster some of the starting pitcher for now and later. But you're 100% right, John. Why are we getting rid of all these guys when we could have one more year of a potential run, right?
Yeah, and after the way they played in the playoffs last year, that comeback against Detroit, getting some gutsy performances out of some starting pitching, getting some timely hitting, now everything's in disarray. And there's a few things that good teams do that this team wasn't doing. They'll let me know this could be where we're headed. I just didn't think they would do it so soon. Most teams with 92 wins, a division championship, and an AL championship series berth have a sense of urgency. The Guards didn't do anything, weren't burning up any phone lines, and that was the first thing. The trades were bad because Nails was what – Giménez, at least you got a little bit of something and then sent some of it out. But
I'll get into the trade details here in a second when we come back from break. I just wanted the initial reaction. You know what I mean? What the hell are we doing again, man?
I don't know, man. And it's in addition. So, yeah, we'll talk the trades in a minute. It also creates chaos in other places where we already had some chaos. Like what is our outfield right now? So we have Quan, and then a bunch of maybes. Lane Thomas, maybe. You talk about John Kinsey Noel, Big Christmas, but he's viewed a little bit as a liability. So you put him at first base, maybe, or DH. And well, now you pick up Carlos Santana. So I'm like,
which we'll get to in a second, right?
I don't know. I'm like, and all because you had $105 million payroll. It puts you at like number 23, 24 overall, depending on whose contracts hit when. It's not like we were even at 140 or 150. I don't know, man.
It's not fun. All of these two fan favorites back to back. And there's been a rumor of Lane Thomas as well, and it hasn't happened yet. But Lane Thomas, to me, was a fan favorite in that playoff run. I know he was a deadline acquisition and whatnot, but to see him go, it's just like they're stabbing us. And then you add in Guards Fest and all of the other drama that has been going on in terms of this team just being cheap. Sell the damn team. Get away from us. We're over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That would be a great Christmas gift is Dan Gilbert buys the Guardians.
Right. Amen. Listen, man, I'm going to take us to break. When we come back, we'll go down some of the breakdowns of what these trades actually got us in terms of roster players, prospects, what have you. And then we'll debate that a little bit and then take this short holiday week episode on a Monday afternoon, Monday night, depending on when you're watching this or when it gets uploaded and whatever you're watching it. If you're watching it live now, who knows? We'll be right back with At the Office after these commercial messages. And we are back hanging out at the office. Me and John. No, Eric. Eric's on vacation for the 40th time this year. We're talking all things sports. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button or hit the download button if you're listening to the audio-only version, wherever you get your podcasts. Drop us a comment, whether you're watching the show live or not. We love to have you included in the conversation. And last but not least, John, if you could hold up that beautiful mug for me, check out our merch store. You can get a nice sticker like this one or that mug that John's holding for simply cheap prices at theofficecle.com. That is ATTHE officecle.com. Shout out Fans for Sports Network for everything they do for us. Let's get back into it, John. I want to bring up some of these trade details. You already started alluding to them before the ad break, which is totally fine. We're jumping all over the place, and I'm cool with that. So, John, I'm going to show you the trade details. I want you to kind of give me some of your breakdowns, some of your thoughts of what we got going on here. So the first one we got is Josh Naylor for right-handed pitcher Slade Cioni, however you say that, and a competitive balance round B draft pick. How do you feel about the Josh Naylor trade?
Awful. We'll get to the second one second, but this is by far the worst of the two. It's an embarrassment. You give up a guy who can hit, and you give up a guy who can play, and you give up a guy who's a fan favorite for nothing. I don't think this Slade dude is even tentatively penciled in as the fifth starter in a rotation. Like I don't. There's no guarantee that he's going to pitch on the big league roster next year. And
yeah. So I want to give you his stats real quick, just because I think it's fantastic and highlights your point perfectly. He played 20 games for the Diamondbacks last year in 2024. Had a win-loss record of 2-7 and an ERA of 6.66. He is a young prospect. He was a 33rd overall draft pick off the top of my head in the 2020 or 2021 draft. He's a young guy. He is still a prospect. He is a guy that can develop and in a system that develops pitchers. That being said, John, you're completely right. Why get rid of a fan favorite big bat who just had arguably his best year offensively? I don't even think it's arguable. It was his best year offensively for two prospects.
And don't even get me started on the fact that on the whole, I still have this feeling, true or not, I haven't confirmed it in a few years, so it might have shifted, that National League pitchers come to the American League and are immediately a little bit worse. Like add half a point to their ERA, because back in the DH era, there were more competitive hitters. You're pitching to pitchers. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole too far, but
right,
that could be 7.25 in Cleveland. And I don't want to rag on a kid who just got drafted, who's starting his career, but like, why we gave up too much for that to be the only thing that we netted. I do know that one of the things we wanted to focus on was starting pitching. When you look at this team and go, what do we need to actually win a World Series? Adding pitchers was important, but not pitchers with +5 ERAs who are under the age of like 24. I meant like a vet who was a solid third rotation guy. Like I don't know.
I'm with you, but that news broke, and that's totally fine. But then some more news broke directly after the Cleveland Guardians traded for Carlos Santana, 1 year, $12 million deal. What was your reaction to that?
Better. You lose a fan favorite, you gain an old fan favorite, but I think the gap in age is 11 years between the two of them. I mean, Carlos Santana is literally almost my age, and
he's 38 right now.
Yeah, I'm 39.
Right.
I love Carlos Santana. Carlos Santana and Victor Martinez are two of my favorite players of the previous era. Pre-Guardians for sure, pre-Terry Francona. There are a lot of dark days with like Eric Wedge and Manny Acta where there were only a few guys to root for. And even before that, we played Boston in the ALCS. I think it was 2007. He was a critical piece of that. So I had nothing but good things to say about Carlos Santana. I'm glad he's coming home for the third time in his career. That's just not enough for a competitive balance, right? What you're giving up still and what you've added don't net out the same. You're losing offense with Nails going away with the addition of Santana, even though I think Santana is still probably a better defender. Call it a wash to be kind to the Guardians. We didn't get any better, that's for sure.
Yeah, to me, it almost felt like a pity move, right? Because as much as I love Josh Naylor and I thought we could get way more out of him than what we did, I was excited to see Manzardo play first base for this team, right? But then you go and you get a veteran who used to be a fan favorite, still probably will be next year. They'll probably do a jersey giveaway for him again, like they do with 3 select players every year. But it felt kind of like, we know you aren't happy right now, so here's at least something that tide you over a little bit. It felt like, and I don't like that because I like Carlos Santana, like you said, the pre-Guardians area, he was one of my favorites as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, what are we doing, man?
You can't just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks either. Like there are a lot of names of play. Like if they were like, hey, what we're gonna do is pay Kenny Lofton, Carlos Baerga, CC Sabathia, Jim Tomei to come back and play. I love all those guys too. It doesn't mean they're going to be effective in 2025 playing Major League Baseball.
Right.
You can't just stick in old names and expect everybody to say, oh, this is great. And I still think he can contribute. I just don't think for what this team was and what this team could have been next season, it's everything to do with the front office and the shittiness of the move, not with Carlos Santana individually.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be excited when he slams one out of Progressive Field. Don't get me wrong. It's just, what are we doing? And I know we've talked about it on past episodes, but let's bring it up again real quick too. The Andrés Giménez trade, where, it was really a 3-team deal, and we end up getting Nick Mitchell, Josh Hartle, Michael Kennedy, 3 prospects, Luis Ortiz, who will be a starter, and I am excited to see him start for us next year because I think he'll be a solid pitcher in our rotation. The Blues get Sandlin and Giménez. The Pirates get Spencer Horwitz, which was supposed to be ours for like literally 30 minutes, and then we traded him. John, I know we've talked about it at length. I just want to touch in because I feel like it fits into this. What are the Guardians doing, man?
Yeah, it's bad, and I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I want to completely and totally overlook something that's important too. Nick Sandlin isn't just a throw-in. Excuse me. He's a decent pitcher.
Yeah.
Was he the key to us winning the World Series next year? Am I going to act like, oh my God, it's an outrage? No. The Giménez piece of this deal is what people focused on, but we didn't just give away Giménez. Sandlin is an effective pitcher. That's an important part of a pitching staff. I think he could do some longer, in the bullpen days and stuff. He's a guy you can go to eat some serious innings, even though he's not a starter, quote unquote. But It's not nothing, and it's just another cheap Dolan move. I just wish to God they would sell the team. It's so ridiculous watching this year after year. And they got the lights on at the stadium, and they're building and doing all this stuff. And if it's like replacing the seats in your stadium after 35 years is so expensive that you can't put a team in front of those seats for the people to watch them play, then there's an issue with that. Like, bring the old seats back and stop screwing around with the Terrace Club if it means we could have kept some of the talent that got us within 3 games of the World Series last year.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not trying to echo what I say, but I think we're very like-minded. I think Eric and Matt, for that matter, would jump on and say the same exact thing we're saying. You know, I am a 2-year advocate. I've gone 2 years now using the ballpark pass, 20, 30, 40 plus games of going to the Guardian season, going in opening day. This will be 3 years in a row. I was at the ALCS when we hit the walk-off home run to win the only game we did in that ALCS series. I was on cloud 9 for what this team could be this year. I'm not even as excited anymore as I was. I'm not excited, truthfully. And to be honest, I'm not excited because it feels like I'm going to go back to what it was. You know how we've had these up and down years, right? Like one year we're really good, the next year we suck. I don't have faith that we're going to be really good because we're moving away from these players that are the faces of this franchise. All of this being said, and I'll let you jump in. I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent. All of this being said, if they use the money from this cap saving to actually make moves, all will be forgiven. But the track record says that's not going to happen.
No, they're going to use it to line the owner's pockets, and that's his right because it's his team. But I just think it's BS. I think the other thing that sucks is pretty much every year since the American League Central was created, it's been the dregs of major leagues with one good team. The Indians were that good team for a long time when it started. They had a few years where the White Sox went to and won some World Series. They had a few years where the Tigers went to some World Series. And the Twins are always like plucky. The Royals won a few. But you don't ever in my life, since this division was created, I can't remember looking and going, there are 4 quality teams in this division. And for the first time, I think that's true, which makes all of this stuff even more important. This isn't like well, let's roll the ball out there and play all of these sorry teams 16 times. And even if we don't go far in the playoffs, we'll beat the Royals most of the time. We'll beat the Tigers. No, the Twins are good. The Tigers are, everybody but the White Sox is good in this division and has a shot. Right. So all of those little pieces and parts over 162 make even more of an impact and difference because those division games used to count on where you went, well, got swept by the Red Sox. Well, we got swept by the Astros, but 5 out of our next 11 games are against the Royals and 4 are against the Twins. And we know between the 2 of them, they're not going to win 100 games this year. This isn't that. So It's going to be worse. I got a question for you, though. Like, I love baseball and love this team so much, but hate the owners. What is a good way for fans to show we support the guys on the field who are making the plays, even though we hate the ownership of the team? Like, because I don't want to say just don't go. Usually it's like, hey, just don't show up. Like the owners will get the point. It's like a protest, but I don't know. Curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, there's 2 ways I would take this since we're kind of shooting off the hip and I'm thinking about it right now. A lot of these players, especially the big name ones like Jose, like Josh Naylor before we traded him and all that, you want to support their pockets specifically. They typically have deals with a lot of these Cleveland companies like, I don't know if it's on that sleeve or this sleeve, but Cleveland Clothing Company or GV Artwork. So buying their merchandise through there instead of that $135 jersey, $135+ jersey that goes to the Dolans. That, and last year the Guardians were record high for seasons on seasons of attendance because of the ballpark pass, because of some of these good faith moves that they were doing. That is the way you protest. I mean, you show up to less games, you stop buying into what the Guardians hype was the last 3 seasons, even though the middle of that, the 2023 season, was a down year. That's going to show what's up. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because I don't know how much of a change you're going to make, regardless of what your protest means is. Do you have an answer for that?
No, the only thing I can think is ragey stuff because I get so pissed about this because we feel like we have such a vested interest, even though it's not our team. I'm like, well, screw it. I'm just not going to any games next year. And then it's like, peanuts and $1 hot dogs and fireworks. Like the kids want to
Getting
go.
rid of the dollar dogs, though. That's another cheap move that they're making. There's a rumor they're getting rid of the dollar dogs because they can't afford it.
I fully expect in the next 10 years to show up to Progressive Field and have them go, oh, well, it's $5 to breathe the air while you're in the stadium because, it's not going to pay for itself and you have the right to. I'm like, everything there is
$25 foam of the beer. Not the beer, the foam. The leftover of the keg is $25. Book it in 2034. That's what's going to happen at Progressive Field, man.
You got to start doing your college tricks to get the foam to go down on the beer.
Amen.
The only thing that I could think of, last thing I'd say on it, it's a struggle, but I don't know. I'm not sure how to react because, like you said, there is an outside chance that they do something to make a move on the positive side and that they're just shifting around cap space. But I think the only answer that I can think of has to do with league stuff, not Guardian stuff. I'd love to see Major League Baseball have $150 million spending floor and have a $200 million spending ceiling. Or even if they don't get the ceiling, I think the players would be behind spending minimums to force teams like this to do more. Like the average team last year spent about $160 million on payroll. I'm not saying be the Mets, but we're at 105 and we're cutting stuff because like we are so far off the pace. Even if all that means is like it's the same team except we signed Frankie Lindor and we're eating that contract. Like I don't know what it looks like, but
yeah.
A spending threshold on the basement, I think, would help.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you'll ever see a salary cap or a salary floor in baseball because it gives the players the chance to make so much effing money. And I get that in terms of the MLBPA and all of that. But in terms of the fanfare for us, the people who are ultimately paying these contracts and paying these owners, to have to go up against like the Dodgers next year, who are continuing to spend money after they swept a World Series. Swept or was it 5 games? Swept, right?
Yeah, I think it was
it was 5. No, it was 5 because the Yankees won Game 3 or Game 4, and then the Dodgers won it. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's just frustrating for us as fans who have to live with owners like the Dolans or, being the small market, like the status quo of a small market team. It's just frustrating, man. It's really, really frustrating. John, I want to go to final thoughts and final takes. The Cavs are playing tonight at 7 p.m. We got a lot of stuff going on. It's Christmas week. I'm glad we could jump on here and talk a little bit of sports. Random thought, hot take to take us out of here.
Yeah, it has absolutely nothing to do with baseball. I think we beat that horse to death and then beat the dead horse a little bit. We hate the Dolans, but I got to give the Buckeyes more love and respect. I get down my little rabbit hole every year, and I go into like an inward spiral when we lose to Michigan because I went like 20 years of my life and it only happened 3 or 4 times. So for it to happen 3 or 4 times in 3 or 4 tries is absurd. But they showed against Tennessee that they are the most talented team in the country and that when they come to play, have a good game plan and are focused on the task at hand and get good leadership from Ryan Day. Whether or not he'll survive this season and make it to next year is a whole nother conversation, but they are a lot better than Tennessee when they play well. I just didn't think they're going to play well, but I got to own that one. I took Ohio State to lose. They didn't. I've never been gladder to be wrong in my life, but I was still dead ass wrong. Indiana let me down. I thought you guys would at least show up for an in-state rivalry, so that was for those two. But it was interesting. I was really enjoying the college football, even though I owe Eric dumplings and all kinds of stuff now. And in addition to the fact that I picked against one of my favorite teams. But I'll stop being long-winded. My takeaway is the Buckeyes are capable of winning a national championship, and I sure as hell hope they do.
Yeah, my takeaway is it is easy being at the top because I went not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4-0 in our pick'em for round 1 of the college football playoffs. You and Eric are below me right now. You are beneath me. I am the king. And I just want to say it feels good at the top. And it feels so good to be at the top that we're bringing it back next week. And we are doing round 2 of the college football pick'em on Monday. Should be our only show next week. We still got one more coming on Christmas Day this week. Don't you fret. But that is coming on Monday. We'll do the college football pick'em, pick all 4 of the games that will go through next week. Nice little tease for that. John, you got anything else you want to tell to the people before we wrap this thing up?
That's it, man. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, go Cavs, go Buckeyes, and the Browns should be drafting really high. So we'll talk about that later.
Amen to that. Thank you for joining us here at the office. Don't forget to subscribe or hit the download button if you're listening to the audio-only version of our show. Check us out on all our socials at the office CLE. You can see it above my head if you are watching the YouTube version of this show. Have a great day. In Cleveland, I hope you have a better, even better night.